What's going on, guys? Xenix back here with another top 5 of that episode of The Flash. So I'm just going to do my recap really quickly and then we can get right into the number 5. So Barry goes into the Speed Force this episode with hopes that he could somehow save Wally from the endless loop that he himself creates in the future. And oddly enough, Barry actually requires the help of Cisco's meta powers to get into the Speed Force. Not quite sure why he just didn't, run in that circle around Star Labs and propel himself into the Speed Force. But maybe it's just for ease of the people who are doing the visual effects or what have you. But anyways, Barry is willing to sacrifice himself for Wally and take his place in the Speed Force. We see Eddie Thawne come back, we see Ronnie and Captain Cold return, and they were all being talked through by the Speed Force. Like the Speed Force was manipulating them and talking through them to Barry. They actually said how they're not going to be as welcoming this time and how Barry's visit is kind of not important and not necessary because no matter what, a speedster is going to take Wally's place. And they kind of knew, I think, from the get-go that that wasn't going to be Barry. So meanwhile, Jessie tries to help Team Flash in any way that she can. And from last episode, they actually have the blade of Savitar that comes right from his suit. So Team Flash tries to track that blade, and instead of using their own methods, which is Cisco somehow tracking it using some of their advanced equipment at Star Labs, Jessie instead chooses to go out on a limb, and Jessie just goes outside of Star Labs and lets go of it, and it starts shooting towards Savitar, so she follows it, and then she gets in a battle with Savitar, and he kind of goes to his god complex again and says how he knew that she would be there and how he has big plans for her in the future. Kind of like one of the followers of Savitar said that they have big plans for Caitlin in the future. So on to number 5. We learned that not only does Barry create Gideon in the future, but also that he creates a temporal loop for Savitar in the Speed Force. This is so that Savitar can never escape, and so that Savitar will never be able to rain his horrible wrath on Team Flash again. But of course, this is done in the future. And what the people who do the story for The Flash haven't explained yet is how this endless temporal loop is affecting essentially the past when Barry creates it in the future. How is it existent in this past, which is actually the Flash's present, whenever it was created in the far future? Maybe it's a close future. So we're not sure. Number 4, the same loop that Barry creates in the future is the one that Wally is currently and presently stuck in. He keeps on reliving the death of his mother, which is the most painful experience in his life. This is probably why Barry made it. He did it for Savitar, and so that whenever Savitar goes into that loop, that he will keep on reliving the time that the Flash sent him to the Speed Force and how the Flash defeated him. So it's just going to drive his spirits down completely and just going to make Savitar want to completely give up. Number 3, Jay Garrick comes over from Earth 3 to Earth 1 and actually goes into the Speed Force and chooses to help Barry and actually take Wally's place in the Speed Force. He does this because of, I think, many reasons. Barry helped him in the past, and because Barry actually got him released from Zoom's imprisonment. So now Jessie will actually take Jay Garrick's place on Earth 3, defeating villains. Number 2, the Speed Force knew from the very moment that Barry entered it this episode that he wasn't entirely ready to leave his life on Earth 1, and instead that he kind of was being held back by something. We actually see Zoom in this episode. Well, it was the Speed Force version of Zoom that was completely wraithified, and he had like the weird logo. His logo changed to white and red, and how half of his face was gone. So that was pretty awesome, and Barry and him had kind of a fight, or a battle, if you will. The Speed Force also very much antagonized Barry this episode and made sure that by the time he left, he knew it was his duty and his alone to save Iris in the future. And it wasn't Wally's or any other speedster's duty to help him. He has to do it alone. It's his burden to bear, and we're going to hopefully see him do that in the future. and succeed by beating Savitar. Number 1. What's theorized by Team Flash is that Savitar must be a person under the suit. There actually has to be someone under there, man or woman. They assumed it was a man, I'm not sure. And at the very same time, that suit yearns to be whole. So when Barry phased off the blade from the suit last episode, it's almost like the suit wants that piece to come back to the host per se. In the comics, Savitar's suit is actually made from the Speed Force, and it seems like it is the same for the TV show since the suit is perfectly constructed for a speedster. As Cisco said, it's completely frictionless and allows Savitar to essentially have a suit of armor that doesn't affect his speed whatsoever, and he can just go for as long as he wants, as fast as he wants, and he has no repercussions. And also he has a freaking suit of armor that is pretty much impenetrable besides his own means, which is his using his suit against him or possibly phasing. So I hope you guys enjoyed my top 5. Next episode we're taking, I think, a break from Savitar and we're going on to Music Maestro, and there's going to be, it's kind of a musical episode of The Flash, and I'll see you guys next week. Peace.
In El City.